This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I have missed all of you very, very much, and you have all been in my heart as I've traveled around the world to visit Erling Strand and the people working over in Hestelen, Norway at Project Hestelen. The past 2 weeks have been truly one of the most profound and exciting experiences that I have ever had, and I knew that going into this. That is a couple years ago when I started to really understand the gravity of work done in this teeny little town and by progressive scientists like Erling Strand and Bjorn Gittel. I knew in my heart I had to go there. I had to learn from them, and it was vital for me to bring back this information and to impart it to all of you, because there are huge lessons for all of us over here in America on how we are going to make research better, how we're going to share data, let go of our ego, and move this forward. I spent my days climbing mountains. I visited 3 of the science team's camps, and twice a year they have science camps for Oxford College students. Most of them are students of engineering. They go to the tops of these mountains, pitch their tents, carry computers and all of this equipment to capture data. Some of the students had very interesting observations that will be analyzed by Erling Strand and his team. It was empowering to see these young people get excited about using instrumentation, about using science, having these mind-blowing experiences. And I hope that we can all do that here and instill our passion and love for this subject to a younger generation. It was wonderful. In the evenings, I took all of my cameras out with Erling, and we went out to this observation point in the middle of nowhere. We had 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. It was bone chilling, and we were out there for hours just photographing, taking in all of everything that was going on around us. And he really taught me a lot about collecting data, about patience. We had many, many candid conversations about problems in the field, especially in America. These are all things that I have talked to you about, and top on my list is the fact that we don't share data. And I was talking to my guest this evening, Rich Hoffman, before we came into the show, and we were talking about little factions or groups that do their thing, but we're not working together. And I have a feeling that Rich is going to really impart some good information tonight. So I'm excited about that. I will be sharing my videos, more of my photos. My plan is to make a documentary on my experiences in Hestelen. I interviewed an 80-year-old man who didn't speak a word of English, so Erling helped me with the interview, but he lived in Hestelen his whole life, and the experiences that he has had are mind-blowing. At the end of the interview, I asked him how this has affected his life, and he answered me with tears in his eyes. And although I couldn't understand his language, I could feel his anguish, his wonderment, all of these things. And so I'm really excited to share this with you. And if you have any questions or comments, go to my Facebook page, ask them, send me a message. I appreciate it. It was such a blessing. And I want to say a big hello to my friend Jeff Cox. I miss you, and we've got great things to do here in Utah, and we're going to really, I'm just excited. Let's get out in the field. But my guest tonight is a man who I have known for a few years. And I remember the first time I really met him and talked to him, we were at a MUFON symposium, and he was standing at a table, and he had this colorful bow tie on and a really jovial smile. I went over to him, and I felt a little out of the water, but I talked to him, and he was so warm and friendly. And although we've had our differences in the past, over the past few years, I've always respected his work tremendously, and his passion, his dedication for this subject, and wanting to really put forward good work. My guest tonight is Rich Hoffman, who is a 22-year-plus Army Information Technology defense contractor. He is senior lead architect working in the U.S. Army Materiel Command headquarters at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. For the past 52 years, since he was in 8th grade and timed with the Lonnie Zamora sightings, he has been pursuing this interest in investigating, researching, and lecturing on the subject of UFOs. He even had the opportunity to lecture to the Air Force on the subject at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That is so cool. Over time, he has worked with numerous organizations, including MUFON, and he was a member of MUFON and an active in leadership since 1969, Director of Investigations for the Ohio UFO Investigators League, field investigator with Ground Saucer Watch, a member of NARCAP, UFO Data, and SCU. He's investigated and reviews thousands of cases, radar cases, animal mutilations, paranormal mysteries, all of these things. He has had a life full of adventure. And Rich, I'm so happy to finally get you on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be on the show, too. I know we tried a couple times and it didn't seem to work out, but I don't know, scheduling conflicts or something. I had a family loss or something like that at one time, but we finally did it. And,
I know. And you've had so much that's been going on in your life, and you really have made pretty big changes in the past year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's really wild, but I mean, it's big changes. But I want to point something out. Today I had my fortune cookie given to me, and I'm going to tell you what it says. It says, today will be lucky and memorable for you. So I'm considering this interview with you that lucky and memorable event.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, it came true. So there is something to these fortune cookies.
Well, I like it.
But, I mean, to me, and I appreciate what you said, in the context of, my experience and stuff like that. To me, it's been one of those things where it's been, there's mixed blessings. It's kind of like hard to do sometimes. And then, but the passion that I've had back when I was in 8th grade and 13 years old is still alive even today. And I just really am still wanting to solve that mystery that's out there that I've run across, and that it does exist. I mean, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, that's purely up to them. But there has always been this phenomena that's out there that still deserves that serious attention. And I think that we've been missing the boat for such a long time in the context of not being able to really have good, serious study, objective study, kind of the things that Erling is doing. I mean, and that patience you talked about, having the patience and letting the data be collected and gathering it and analyzing it. And it deserves that kind of like focus. And I'm hoping that if anything else, before I kick the bucket, maybe I can get some other people on board. I am getting older, and of course my wife keeps telling me, "It's when are you going to retire?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to keep on with this." But it's like one of those things where I'll probably be still talking about UFOs when I keel over. but
But you know what? That's so cool to me because I think that there's so much more to life, and you understand that. And we're not the beginning and the end of the universe.
Right. Without a
And
doubt.
we're really living in an exciting time because we're learning more about technology, about the natural world, about space, and things are really kind of quickening almost. And this is, to me, I think that you're going to see, we will all see really remarkable breakthroughs.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I think that, in the whole context of the UFO, I mean, the subject of UFOs and stuff like that, but I think that on multiple levels, we're going to learn more. I mean, everything from we have better equipment, better technology that's more in our hands. We've got people that want to, like Dave Schock out in Ohio, and as a matter of fact in Dayton, that wants to send up a cube satellite. You have the people that are out there developing these prototypes to be able to put in field, and having things like spectral cameras, kind of like the stuff that Erling and Heston has that we want to be able to accomplish as well. And so I'm excited because I think that there's a great future in terms of using that technology, which is getting more affordable and more prolific. And at the same time, we're making incredible scientific discoveries that, things like even about our consciousness and about who we are as individuals that will help us to understand that other kind of like area that we aren't getting clear, that this is an experience that's a conscious experience that we bring into our lives, or we haven't entered into our lives. And it's one of those things that we want to try to get some sort of a balance with, because when people see these objects, many of them become, disturbed, or they might be excited or whatever like that. And they want to get back to that balance, and they do that through basically study or trying to get involved, and it helps them to get some sort of an understanding about what they've seen. So to me, it's like very exciting times, and I'm very optimistic about it. And I know
am
that you
too. Yeah, it's so interesting because I think you resigned from MUFON, and as did I. And I remember the last time I saw you was at a MUFON symposium, and I remember how really, I mean, you were upset and you cared so deeply about that organization and gave so much to the organization, and it was really hard for you. I just remember just being struck at how really truly deeply you felt despair.
Yeah. Well, 47 years of your life, was dedicated to helping to solve this phenomenon and working with MUFON. And I had been working for the last several years on the staff and trying to promote improvements and changes. And I think that for the most part, I was able to do that. And Jan was very supportive. I think that what I continue to see, though, was that, we couldn't bring on new scientists. Scientists seemingly were like leaving and departing. A lot of them were generally upset with things like, how do I say it? It's the non-scientific types of things like, the speculation about secret space programs. And that's kind of like not the mission of UFOs that I signed up for. It's like, okay, if we want to become conspiracy theory type of thing, well, that's not what I signed up for. And there's a lot of other people kind of like felt the same way. So we started seeing kind of more of a focus on how can we bring in more money and how can we market, as opposed to how do we build a scientific organization and get better people. So that, while I'm one of these people that my whole life is, and this is what my job's about, is that I spend my time and my focus always on improving things. And if I can't improve things, then I really don't want to stay. If I can't make things better or I can't make it, then I just lose interest. And so it was very difficult for me to leave that behind. But for me, the focus was on that I could now spend a greater amount of time doing the things like Erling is doing and what other people that I know of also wanted to do. And so to me, it's not like I've stepped out. In fact, I'm very busy. I'm helping to write a lot of documents. I've got a project much like Hestelin. I've got the same kind of thing here in Alabama, which we can talk about more. But and so I'm very busy getting scientific teams put together to be able to go study that, getting equipment for that, and so I'm a pig in heaven. But that's kind of like where I'm at. It's like, I'm still doing the UFO, and I'm going to treat it seriously, and I don't have all those distractions of
Exactly.
having to deal with, I've worked very hard to establish my credibility after this length of time, and for somebody else to destroy that credibility because of their decisions was not fair. I mean, and so I felt kind of that's what was happening. And so for me, it was just best to say, well, goodbye, and I'm leaving, and I'm going to go off and do my own shtick. So that's where I'm at.
And I know that you, James Clarkson, Robert Powell, there have been several high-level resignations as of late, and I mean, all people that have been with MUFON for a long, long time. And, for me, even though I wasn't there a long time, I felt like, A, being a woman was challenging, B, having the lower level political games going on constantly, and people trying to sabotage good work just for their small-minded, egoic purposes. And it felt so, it was painful, and I can't imagine how it felt for you, but it was like a mourning process to go through. But
it definitely was painful. It was painful for me to watch that whole interaction that was going on and you were dealing with. It was painful for me to watch decisions that, like, closing down the MUFON, even the Facebook page, which, but I mean, there were a lot of decisions that were being made that I'm going like, oh my gosh, this is just, counter to where we're going to go or what I thought we were going to do. And I had done a lot of, work to be able to build things like that. And so, hey, look, if you don't want to utilize the processes or you don't want to use the procedures, that's your choice. But that's what I believe, that we were trying to create something good. We promoted it. Hey, okay, well, and then you see what happens, even in the context of, social media with the whole 9 yards with John Ventry and his announcement, which just, that was just like almost like the icing on the cake. But I mean, it went downhill even with the responses you got back from Jan to then you got the symposium that's on, with these conspiracy type of people, and you're going like, what is going on? How am I going to stand up here? I mean, most of the members that I have here in Alabama, especially in the Huntsville area, are scientists and engineers that work at NASA that help build the Saturn V rockets and are building the SLS rocket taking us to Mars. And these are very serious scientific people, and I'm trying to promote MUFON, but they're saying, well, there's this crazy secret spaceship thing you got going on. Why do you have these loonies coming to your event? And so it was hard for me to even, what do you do to counter that? Well, I'm saying, well, it's out of my control. I didn't put the schedule together. And, and so that's where it became extremely uncomfortable for me.
Right.
And how do I address that to these people and claim that I want to be credible? I mean, and so that's exactly what the problem was for me.
Exactly. And I think, that was the sentiment of a lot of people, that the lineup for the symposium caused a lot of resignations. People were not happy with that. And it does reflect poorly, even though, you've got MUFON, people in MUFON trying to run defense, saying that we need to give everybody a chance and a voice. Well, no, we don't. If we're a scientific organization or doing this for the betterment of mankind, we adhere to guidelines, and we get information out that is scientific. And Robert Powell, he wrote so many brilliant things and contributed so much. And where was his work? Why wasn't he highlighted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly it. So don't claim that you're a scientific organization where you spend, this incredible focus on non-science, and at the same time on, I understand marketing can bring in money, and maybe that can help you to do more and buy more and stuff like that. And I think that that's where Jen was trying to go. He's trying to get more money to be able to, now I can build that better database, and I can go and do those things. And that's maybe very true. But here's the thing, Erica, and you know what I'm getting at when I say this. You spend a lot of time investigating a case as a field investigator. You go and you do all that great work. You go out and you talk with witnesses. You do your best to be able to put that whatever that story is together and to get all the facts, right? And the concern that I've got is that a lot of people are doing that, but who are the researchers that are now using the data to analyze it to get some sort of understanding about the phenomena? And
exactly.
What you didn't have was a focus on getting more people analyzing the data. Instead, it was, let me build a new database. And I understand that, but by God, we still have to have those people, and you have to have that focus. So, it's like good old Erling, again, you talked about what he's doing. He's got a great amount of data. He's done a lot of all that wonderful stuff. You have those students from Oxford coming out there. I mean, it's just great. And he's sharing it. And there's the people in Italy that are also out there that are chiming in remotely and looking and analyzing data. It's great data. There's people actually doing that analytical work on the data. But who's analyzing those MUFON cases that are just sitting in CMS?
Right. Or better yet, and I wanted to ask you about this, we're getting ready to go to break, but where I found as state director, there were cases that were removed from the database.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was, and some of them were bigger cases, and to me that was really curious. Why are cases being hidden, or sections of those cases were being deleted? It was very curious, and I think that to have also, the elite team that would go in and take cases and then not informing the state director about a case in their own state. I mean, I have to ask myself, what is the purpose of that?
Wow. No good.
Yeah.
And I'll say this much, that to me, it's like one of those things where it's like, again, going back to the concept that you get this data and hopefully you're going to have somebody to analyze it. And when I try to encourage partnerships with other organizations around the world, and why aren't we sharing the data and doing that? There was resistance, and there was just like, okay, well, we're not going to go that way, huh? So we can't even work cooperatively with the other UFO organizations, and we're trying to remain a stovepipe. Now, I mean, they can say that we're showing all of our cases and stuff like that. No, you're showing raw data. That's all you're showing is a raw data. But what did we find out? And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to spend the rest of my life collecting another 70,000 cases that are going to be consisting of lens flares and all those other kinds of things that get caught up in IFOs. I spent so much time weeding through that to get to the UFO, and I'd rather spend more time on the UFO cases, right? The legitimate.
Right, absolutely. And I'm so excited. I've got so many more questions for you. We're going to take a break. I'm Erica Lukes here with Rich Hoffman. It is good to be back. We will catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Paranormal radio never sounded so good. Join the hosts of the American Ghost Hunter Show each week as they shoot from the hip without holding back.
They're kind of unpredictable, not like the rest of us.
Live every Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Come hear some of the hottest authors, investigators, as well as TV and radio personalities from around the world on the American Ghost Hunter Show.
Our survival depends upon it.
Hauntings, UFOs, cryptos. If it's branded paranormal, we'll be talking about it. The American Ghost Hunter Show, live Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The only question you have to ask yourself, are you ready for it?
Yeah! All right!
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
After putting up a struggle, the man peed on one of the officers.
Holy cow. Isn't that assault?
That's assault.
I don't know if it's quite attempted murder, but it's a misdemeanor, right?
It's at least.
Wow.
It's the very least, it's assault.
Seems that's the least of his problems.
Okay.
Because he was charged with possession of methamphetamine and drug paraphernalia.
Oh, okay. So the fun is just beginning for his law firm. Okay.
There you go.
An Illinois teacher is facing attempted murder charges for allegedly stealing a bulldozer and using it to run over a manned police cruiser.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, my friends. You are listening to KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network, the best and most professional broadcasting network in the world. I am happy to be here. I want to just tell Tina Marie, my producer and the station owner, how much I appreciate her professional approach and just being a great support system for all of the hosts on this network. I am always looking forward to being here on Friday night and sharing my experiences with you and having you interact. You are all the reason that I am here, and you really all mean a lot to me, so thank you for your support. I am here tonight with Rich Hoffman, who has been a dedicated researcher and has engaged this subject with a lot of bravery for the past, since 1969. He's been a member of MUFON. Since the age of, when he was in 8th grade, he began an interest in this and wanted to research and do what many of us do, just try to absorb everything. And through his career, he has seen the field change and disintegrate. But now we were talking before we came to the break about this wonderful new prospect of changing the field and seeing younger people engage this. And I think it really will, for all of the turmoil, I think we're really going to see a positive direction in the field. And Rich Hoffman has a lot of great things going on. So welcome back, Rich.
Hey, good to be back.
Yeah, it's so we were talking a little bit about MUFON and some of the reasons that you chose to leave. And I know sometimes we spend too much time on talking about some of these negative things, but I think it's important for us to understand some of the pitfalls and some of the things that are going on so we can improve the field and really make it better for the younger people coming into it. So with regard to MUFON, what were you were saying that they were promoting things that were basically fantasy based, which you didn't say that. I'm going to say that at the symposium. And you were director of a part of MUFON. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was, besides being the state director for, actually originally I was both Mississippi as well as Alabama. I live in Alabama, but I had somebody help me out when I got moved up to the international level, and now I'm working at the headquarters. So Jan and I talked, and originally I came on as the deputy director of investigations and also like the STAR team manager because Fletcher Gray had left. And so I was kind of filling his shoes and learning about the STAR team and what that role should be and how we're going to be able to now improve our getting out to those cases that really needed to, we needed some more advanced level skills sets included on that. So worked with constructing how that would work and trying to improve the overall processes for STAR team members and that type thing. But anyway, and then after that, I kind of basically shifted up to a different position. I was now director of strategic projects. And what that really means is that Jan had a lot of like these technology kinds of things that he wanted to be able to do. And one of them was, besides obviously put the database in and get that constructed and help move that along. Another one was, and this is something that him and I had talked about, is that we can't continue to go on another however many years collecting anecdotal data from witnesses. I mean, there's too many of these cases that we're spending time on where they're nothing but IFOs. They're just misidentifications, How many lens flare cases do I have to look at? And people, and part of that, and you got to understand where I'm coming from. Part of it is that we owe it to the public to be able to educate them on their cameras and what lens flares was. In fact, we should be probably focusing on educating them on all IFOs and what those could be. And so that I constructed photos of every kind of IFO you can possibly imagine, lights in the sky, Hestelin kinds of things, or sprites or whatever like that. And the idea was to be able to now go and, for the benefit of humanity, help them to understand and discriminate between IFOs versus the things that we're more interested in. That would help to reduce and allow the investigators to then focus on just the really good cases, right? And especially since we were losing directors in many states, we were losing, any kind of leadership in that state, and then the state would fall apart. Or you'd have, and then field investigators were not getting the training, despite the fact that they had put in a great program, the university, and I salute that effort. But more importantly, a lot of them weren't taking it, and then there was also the situation where a lot of them needed more on hand, kind of like training and stuff like that, and so they were. Bottom line, not doing well. The quality of cases were not there where we would hope. You'd literally look at cases that would come in where maybe the investigator spent just a few minutes maybe on it and then concluded this is what it is. It's a mothership. It's an unknown. And so you're saying like, oh my God, what have I got going on here? So how can I study and do any kind of thing with that? So you got to improve the quality. So I worked on improving the quality of cases with Jan, and I got into working with the concept of a triage team, and how can we put in a team of people to help screen out some of the easily identifiable stuff so we can get less, and then we can focus and do a better job on the unidentified. So I tried to work on that. In addition to that, then I was working on well, why can't we in this? I work in the IT world over at the Army Materiel Command, and I've been with them for the 22 years, and to me, it's like one of these things when I'm sitting there looking and using technology that's way in advance of better databases and better things than we're using on UFOs. And then I'm working around scientists, and these are, by the way, just to clarify, the Army Materiel Command is the sister organization to the Air Force Materiel Command in Dayton, Ohio, where all of Project Blue Book was under. Okay, all the R&D people up there in Dayton that are working, they were working for the Air Materiel Command, and so I'm in the sister organization, but I'm in the Army now. So we have scientists here building incredible things. This is missile and space technology and a whole bunch of stuff here, but I get to see a lot of that and get to know a lot about what we do in the Army in that context. And so there are things that we're doing that could be better. I mean, we could leverage those, use those. Why aren't we doing that? Why do we go around talking, necessarily to collect cases where there's no data? And how can we get data? And so I was looking to be able to help get technology out in the field, and was monitoring UFOTOG that Mark D'Antonio was on, and also Doug Trumbull was putting together with UFOTOG 2, monitoring where that project was. There's a gentleman by the name of Ron Olch out in California who has put together a very, very nice device that has capability to be able to, it's on a tripod, you put it out, and it basically can do a lot of great things. It has magnetometers. He can discriminate between an airplane going over and get the actual object that we're looking to get. There's a lot of work with all sky cameras in the universities and stuff like that we can connect in with. There are a whole host of other things, like even Hestelin, that we could leverage and find out what kind of devices that they're using and bring that to bear. And then I became a part now of UFO Data under Mark Rodiger and stuff like that. So I'm working with people from around the world on building that design for there. So that's kind of like where I'm at, and that's the sweet spot that I think that I can help out with, and I'm hoping that we can do it right to be able to get some better answers, and so that's kind of like what that's about, Erica. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, we have a question in the chat room, and this is from Jeff Cox, who was the Assistant State Director under me. We worked together. His question is, what has really gone forward with the STAR team, and what have they contributed to the field for all of us?
So that, of course, this was a concept that I ended up having to fall into, and when I got it, I was like, okay, I knew what the concept was, but I didn't see that there was execution of it. And so when I became that, I said, okay, well, we've got to figure out what the role of the STAR team needs to really legitimately be, because this was residual from the days when Bigelow was involved and was actually funding it. So they had this kind of like STAR team. It was the quick response team that they actually gave gear to. I mean, they had a credit card. If they got called out, they could maybe fly somewhere, get out there, collect evidence, and that's what it was about. Well, when, of course, the Bigelow deal ended with MUFON, and, of course, that was, then you're back to being MUFON, where you don't have any funds, you can't have a credit card, you can't send your best investigators to cases. And so it was like, okay, well, so when I got it, how are you going to leverage that? And what I noticed was that when I saw cases coming in, because I would be screening cases every day that were coming into the queue, that I would notice cases that would be wow, this is a great case. Why? I mean, there was a potential, I looked for cases that were like landings, okay, if it were an indicated landing, or if it was close to the ground, or if there was like something where you need to get out there real quick, and you need to respond within a 24-hour period to be able to collect the best data that you can and run those tests. Well, that was the purpose. But I had to work in the context of the state directors, because the state directors are not going to be happy, I was told, and I experienced that, by the way, where if I'm 15 minutes, I could probably spit from here into Tennessee But if there's a sighting across the state line, I can't get involved even though I'm close. And to me, it was like ludicrous, the fact that existed, that why aren't we like looking at it as we are all working together? Why do we have to have this divisions according to states and boundary lines? And to get the best people out to that good case so that they can get evidence and collect it and do the right thing. So that was my focus. And what I continue to see was that it didn't seem to be everybody else's focus. And instead, they would be focusing on other things. In fact, counter to, in fact, when I left, basically that position, they never filled it again. And so here's this thing called a STAR team, which is not being leveraged. I created a process called the merit process because I was trying to be able to say, if we send out and we have evidence. Oh, by the way, what happens if they get evidence? What happens? Where does it go to? Who does it go to? How is it sent? How does it get to a lab? And what I found out was evidence was being sent to the headquarters that didn't have any kind of handling procedures for it. Nothing was listed in terms of how it was passed off, how it was collected. And so consequently, that's worthless. It's just, and then you don't have, do I have control samples? I don't know. Do I have this? And so you had just, somebody send some turf into MUFON headquarters and they had no problem. It just sat on a shelf. Okay, well, that's not the way to deal with evidence, And so what I got was a whole team of more scientists engaged and said, I need you to have you become consultants to be able to help with UFO cases where you could now talk to hypothetically that STAR team investigator, and you could be then talking with these experts and they could help guide you through or help give you ideas in terms of how to deal with it, plus to be able to handle and help out with the sending to a lab. Okay? And so that's kind of what I was building that whole process for evidence collection. And again, I walked away, and so I to me, it's I think I have no clue what's happening anymore.
So with the STAR team cases, were they accessible for other state directors or field investigators to see in the CMS?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, basically, what I did was so in your state, I would be saying, hey, Erica, who is your STAR team investigator? Who's your best investigator? And so those cases they're not in a separate database. It's still in that. And it's just basically you got your best investigator investigating. So you're still going to see it in your state.
Okay. And yeah, absolutely. And so with with all of this information, for me, when I would sit back as a state director and look at, and I did the same thing that you did, I mean, I would look at cases coming in to every state, because to me, there were pretty significant patterns at play. And there were areas where there was recurrent activity, and people, because the field investigator wasn't educated properly, they were dismissing cases, saying they were Chinese lanterns or, ABCD airplanes, but they weren't doing the thorough investigation to rule out all of the mundane. And when I was doing Project Orange with Bob Spearing, who I just have tremendous respect for, and Terry Ray, we noticed that a lot of cases were being dismissed and, ruled an IFO, even though objects that were being classified as Chinese lanterns were moving against the wind. They were hovering in place for upwards of 30 minutes. I mean, all of these things that would say that this was something anomalous. And so what do you feel that we always want to find the one good case with all of the evidence, and we're missing the broader picture?
Yes. We're being inundated with all of the ash and trash, and people are basically, and we're not getting rid of and doing a very good job of eliminating all the knowns to get to the unknown. And then what happens is what I see is continuously happening is that, let me just put it in this context. So if you've got mixed in with your population of data, a whole bunch of bird cases, right? So, and you think that these are all these are unknowns. These are UFOs, okay? And you now are basing you're trying to understand the phenomena and its behavior. And you say, well, wait a minute, they swoop, they dive, they go into the water, they come, you've mixed in birds with your UFO, and now you're deriving the wrong kind of, you're deducing the wrong kind of thing about the object you're wanting to study. And so it's just like, from a scientific standpoint and from a logical standpoint, I want to investigate legitimate UFOs and now know what the behavior of the UFO is, okay? But I don't want to be interpreting the wrong information by looking at cases that are, that you've called an unknown. But wait a minute, it's really a lens flare, or it's a bird, it's a drone, or it's something else. And what I didn't see was that improving that field investigator that was taking place, that education of them. I didn't see the focus of, oh, by the way, I noticed my field investigator called that a lens flare. Let me go out and educate that person on lens flares. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
So, you don't have, in many cases, in many states, you had state directors who were not even conversing with the field investigators. And they weren't getting educated, and they weren't getting whatever. So, and then you have, how do I become a field investigator? Well, I might have seen a UFO. Oh, that's great. I saw one. And now because I'm a believer, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to become a UFO investigator, and I want to join up with MUFON. Well, I kind of get in it, but I keep my bias, if you would, that they all exist and I'm a believer. Well, wait a minute, not all things are UFOs, so you see something that looks like something and you want to call it a mothership. Well, no, wait a minute, it's not a mothership. It might have been a dirigible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did you do the work to prove and look at all these different hypotheses or the types of things that you saw and rule them out? And one of the things that we don't do in ufology is we don't rule out any new hypothesis that happens about what we're trying to, the UFO subject. So we have all these different hypotheses. Oh, they're time travelers. Oh, they've always been here. Oh, they're ET. They're interdimensional hypothesis. That's what it is. We don't eliminate anything. So we just add more hypotheses and we don't get anywhere.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who's focusing on eliminating some of these and ruling them out so that we can get some sort of a better understanding of that? But no, we're just going to keep adding on. And the latest whiz-bang thing will explain what they are. And so there you go. And it's just, we just don't focus on the right things. We're not really getting well-documented cases. And how much longer do I want to spend on that, where I'd rather spend 2 years like I did with Aguadilla, we studying that one video and analyzing the heck out of it to learn as much as we could. So we'd rather spend my time looking and delving into legitimate cases than versus spending my time declaring something a lens flare.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, that's kind of the clarity that we all come to when we step away from MUFON. And for me, the more I am away from it and I look and see it's all just a kind of a social club, a way to generate revenue. I wonder, and I want to ask you what you feel the role of the board of directors plays and why aren't they more involved?
The board of directors, typically in any corporation, are supposed to be they're not supposed to be getting into your knickers about the day-to-day business kind of thing, but they're supposed to be focused on helping you to get more money or to become, financially solvent or that type of thing. They tend to be more like financially oriented. So if you look at, in most corporations I've worked with over my, UFO career, or not my UFO career, but my career, I've worked at corporate headquarters and worked with CEOs in a whole bunch of industries. And, and I got to know the board members and things like that. And I've even sat as a board member on some of these things. So their focus isn't on the day-to-day kind of minutia. and that's pretty much Jan had as well. So they really didn't get involved in a lot of that stuff. It was mostly that Jan had to rely on his staff to assist him, and I was on that staff group. So you have just a few of us that are kind of, but there are decisions that that he was being made with, he made, that are based upon even some of the board members that either were there or used to be there. So, I mean, he did hear what they had to say, and some of the decisions he would make running his shop was basically from them. So, like, for example, the secret spaceship program was hatched last year in Orlando when he was working with Robert Wood, who was at one point a board member. Of course, Robert has retired, but he was influenced by that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, they may have some sort of like a limited influence in terms of like those kinds of things, but they're really, and then the other thing is that typically in corporations, your board members are not part of your own organization. They'll often be board members that are from other organizations or whatever like that. And so MUFON tends to have, it did have a few people that were outside of that, of MUFON, but anyway, you're trying to be objective and you're trying to be able to do that. But there seems to be that kind of like thing there. But I really didn't see much engagement with the board. I think that they had some sort of like influence, and they may have influenced him on some decisions that he's made. And I'm sure that he probably interacts with them quite often, because he as a CEO, they could literally vote to replace him.
Right.
They could vote to not extend or increase his salary that he's getting out of whatever donations are left after the little bit that they get. And so, I mean, that's kind of like how that would be. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering too, with a non-for-profit, the tax returns are supposed to be, from my understanding, something that are published on the website or readily available for the public, and that doesn't seem to be the case. What do you know?
Yeah, they're up. They're on like one of those like what is it? I can't remember what they call them, SC99s or 99. But there's a website that I found where those things are actually published each year. So you can actually see their income and their loss and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's good. I'm here with Rich Hoffman. I'm Erica Lukes. We're going to talk about really cool places in Alabama when we come back, so stick around.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes, and I'm so happy to be back. I can't tell you what an amazing experience I had. I spent 10 days in Hestelen, Norway, and Erling Strand was an absolute delight. He was so helpful. I got to meet everyone involved with Project Hestelen, meet people in the town that had had profound experiences, and learn about the most groundbreaking research project in the world. If you don't know about this, please go to projectheshelon.org and learn about this. Look at the data and look at the way they are empowering a younger generation to engage this topic. In my opinion, and I know in all of yours, this is a crucial time for this subject, and we really need to get good information out there. We need to have a progressive approach with research, and we also need to be open-minded enough and humble enough to understand that there is so much more to this than meets the eye. And I'm with Rich Hoffman, who is my guest tonight. He has done a lot of work for decades in this field. He was with MUFON. He is now doing progressive things with UFO data, where they're looking at instrumentation, really groundbreaking things to send out in areas that have repeated phenomena. And so all of us here and all of you listening are on the cutting edge of doing some really great things. Rich, welcome back. And speaking of great things, you are doing some really, really cool things. And I have to say that I was really, I felt for you when you resigned, but I know that you are doing cool things, and now you've got the ability to do it and not have to worry about the lower level nonsense.
Yeah, thank you. Sense and sensibility has come back to me in my life. So yeah, it's been a little bit, although my work is just eating me alive, but at the same time, I'm in my career work, as opposed to UFO life, but yeah, it's all good, and I can now focus my attentions and work with people that are absolutely incredible. I mean, these are scientists. I'm on the SCU side, we got 24 scientific people together, and so we're happy with that, and we're forging new relations there. And with the Aguadilla case, it gave us an opportunity to actually reach out and talk to other organizations in other countries as well. So we're forging those relationships as well. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we'll be able to have very, very engaging conversations, and then the whole focus is a more scientific bent in terms of how do we apply science. And I'm going to be looking at probably creating a conference here in Huntsville that's going to be basically dedicated on to how do we improve, and looking forward, how do we improve the future of ufology and scientific ufology, and what do we need to be able to do that and to work together. So I'm formulating that. Robert Powell was actually here in town, and I got to see him a couple times.
Oh, awesome.
He was here for an interplanetary space conference that was here, and so him and I got together. We shared some ideas and stuff like that. So we're bottom line is we're going to create this and make it go the right direction for us and for others, I hope. I've also been engaging a lot of people online that are looking for change in ufology directions, and so that's going to be a good topic to have, and hopefully we can bring them all together. So yeah, good stuff. I'm excited about it. I'm thinking that it'll be very, very good. And the project that I've got that's, I was mentioning it kind of at the beginning of the hour, was that Cloverdale case. And so that's a project that I've got underneath the SCU umbrella, which is, by the way, stands for Scientific Coalition for Ufology. But I mean, we're going to be going in that case and studying a phenomenon like Hestelen that happens during colder weather that seems to be, when I look at the similarities, there are some similarities, but there are others that are things that are not similar. In the Cloverdale area, you've had since about 1973 objects that have been seen much like in Hestelen, or much like even in Brown Mountain lines. But when you look at what Aaron Cox, or his name is Wyatt Cox actually, he wrote a book called Spook Lights, The Amazing Cloverdale, Alabama Spook Light Mystery. And him and a friend actually spent decades, and they're still doing it, going out into these fields west of Huntsville, only by an hour. And they're observing this phenomena that continues to, they've been able to classify it. You talk about the yellow orbs. Well, they have yellow balls of light that are 8 foot in diameter that tend to move in a straight line. They are not affected by wind at all. The wind direction can be coming from the north, and they're still flying, and they fly east and west, or west to east. And they are not, like I said, not impacted by wind, and they will suddenly disappear. They'll stop maybe and hover. They generally go about 20 miles an hour in terms of their speed. They tend to be coming up from the ground. And there's, and they've been able to classify them, and they've cataloged them in their book. And now we're going to take and put technology tools out there. And so we can see what we can get. I'm already working with some people who fly drones. We're going to take and have HD cameras fly up next to the object and take, video footage of it. We're going to have sensors to be able to interpret magnetometer readings, get all kinds of information in terms of electromagnetic effects associated with these things. We're going to be able to take spectral images of them, much like they're doing in Hesselen. So that's exciting because, and that's the same excitement that you experienced working with Erling over there, is that you saw that was good use of that technology on this phenomena. So let's tackle it here.
And isn't that cool? And to me, it's like, we've got the same type of thing going on in Utah, specifically, Skinwalker Ranch, the Uinta Basin, by Dugway Proving Ground. And we've also got the Kennecott Copper Mine, which is the world's largest open pit copper mine. And there are lots of the same type of things taking place there. And that's always been my thing. Let's get instrumentation out there. Let's collect data. And I think it's fantastic. And if we can each do this in our specific areas and then pull all of our data, we're going to make some really great progress.
I was intrigued with one of the spectral results from Hesselen of an object where they indicated that it was, basically consistent. When they got the spectral, it just showed basically oxygen, nitrogen, and some silicate. And at the same time, they found scandium, which is and that was in it as well. And so if you look at and you read what scandium is, that's an element that basically it's a rare earth element. And its situation is that, you ready for this?
Yep.
This may explain the light of it, but bottom line is that scandium is used in those movie set lights to be able to make it look like day, and that they use that element there. Well, you know how these things suddenly get very, very bright, and maybe that's the luminescence to it, was the scandium type thing. But and then there's connections to other minerals, like you mentioned copper.
Right.
There's also sulfur connections.
Yes.
And so we need to analyze and find out what, and I've already got the geodesic maps and some of the other kinds of things for this area, to study it, to find out what specifically elements and things that are there, and why is it happening in this spot? Why is it happening in Hesselen? Why is it happening in Dugway? Is there a common feature amongst these things? And can it happen anywhere else? And my point is that, hey, look, if it can happen there, how many other UFO cases that we get are actually this kind of luminescent phenomena that we need to study and learn more about, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't be more excited to hear you say this, because, this is exactly where my heart and my passion and my focus has been, because this is taking place all over the world in these areas. And Dr. Massimo Teodorani has done some pretty amazing research with regard to this. And, so we build upon that, and you do what you're doing and get people out there doing field research instead of sitting behind a computer. And then I just think this is so exciting. And I have to say that I loved being out in the field. That was, to me, the most exciting thing that I could have done, even though sometimes it was a little, boring, I'll admit, but that's where it's at.
And by the way, I just point out he's on the team with UFO data that I'm working on. So I get to work with Massimo. So
That's
I mean,
so great.
yeah. So I mean, we're like I said, it's working with a lot of very talented and very smart people who are many of them are physicists or nuclear physicists or chemists or whatever like that. And it's exciting that they're actually focusing on this subject. I mean, it deserves that serious study. So hey, I'm thrilled. I've been sending up documents and getting suggestions from all of them, and I think we need to do that. I work with Erling and get suggestions from him. I mean, we need to share, and that goes back to with what you said earlier too. It's like we should be one ufology, not many splintered groups, and focus our efforts as limited as they might be, and bring our talents to bear. And instead of these splintering things, which it used to be in organizations you had like back when I got started, their APRO had their database, NICAP had their database, somebody else had their database, and nobody shared. I'm sorry. We need to have one repository, and we need to have everybody sharing and everybody learning and everybody coming to a solution. And we need to get over this pettiness about, my organization's this, your organization's that, and everything else. Solve the damn problem, get together. It's about time. And, let's go. I mean, let's get on with it. And so why not?
Well, I mean, I really think that we can. And I think the exodus of all of some top people at MUFON is really kind of shined a light on what's happening in the field and the need for progressive change, the need for ethical reform and for a standardization. And that's the thing. It's like over in America, I mean, it's been like, and I've heard this from other people, it's kind of cliche, but like the wild, wild west. And it really has been. This field has been dominated by media personalities who are just trying to, do whatever they're doing and don't really care about the subject, and people that are trying to sell their books and promote their TV shows and different things, and they don't really have a passion, know or understand the gravity of what this is all about. And you and I have both talked with many, many people that have experienced this, and it's disturbing, it is life-changing, it is awe-inspiring, and there's so many facets to this, and it deserves respect.
It does. It does, by all means. And so I'm hoping, like you, I think you and I are both on the same wavelength here because we're both saying the same thing. And I think that that's the direction we need to go. And so, I mean, I think that the more minds that join that, I keep seeing more and more on Facebook that are feeling the same way, that there needs to be some sort of, you call it reform or whatever like that. But bottom line is that there's a need to get in a different kind of direction and a different kind of mindset. And that's what we need to do.
Well, I think we will. And I want to say that it is interesting. And when I was having a conversation with Erling, I asked him, how did you get involved with this to begin with? And he was talking about the news report and when all of the townspeople, when all of their sightings hit the media. And he said that the scientific community and the mainstream media was so negative and irresponsible with these people that he felt, I think at that point in time, very disturbed or saddened by the fact that mainstream science, instead of taking a progressive, open-minded approach, which in my opinion is how science should be, we're making breakthroughs, they did the opposite. And so how do you feel science can hold us back with this? Because and I know that science is very slow.
Sure. It is slow, and I think that there are, part of it has to do with the fact that you need to have established processes for peer reviews. You have to have, a similar kind of construct. We want to be able to write and publish paper. I'll share something interesting with you. Publishing papers, okay. So I went to a science writing website where it was trying to focus on getting papers written and getting them published. Guess what was on the first page as an example of what not to do?
I don't know.
Do not write about UFOs.
Oh, God.
Okay, that was on the very front page of trying to give you an illustration of what not to do.
Oh, geez.
So, okay, so that's what you're telling people. Don't treat this subject serious, and don't discuss it, and don't bring it into science. We've already in our minds rejected it. And so, with that kind of, help me out here. Isn't science about the idea of looking at observations and spending time to figure out if these observations are legit or not, and then analyzing it and coming up with, like, is there an explanation? To me, that's what it's about. Why would I reject the fact that our history is filled with somebody seeing something that's just generally unexplainable, or that people every day are seeing something that's, not defined, or it doesn't fit into their concept of their reality? How do you explain the fact that we do have cases with legitimate amount of with scientific data behind it that are rejected? How do we deal with the fact that we have a CIA organization in the United States that shows up and collects all that wonderful evidence? How do we deal with that? How do we deal with the fact that I can go talk to scientists even at Redstone Arsenal that are very reluctant to even bring up the subject because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs? There's that there. And so getting scientists who want to engage it, are willing to, is a challenge. A lot of them do it, like, I think Jacques Vallée talked about the invisible college, but that's fine. But I think more and more, if you see scientists being applied to this, others will come on board. And if we can't get our journal articles published in typically scientific, well, let's create our own journal of scientific exploration journal and just make it, and publish it, or something of that nature. Let's get our information and our data out there and start to see if we can fit back into mainstream science and actually basically show that there is solid data to this thing, and that there is an unknown. I was encouraged by the fact that they had a team of scientists that came to Hesselen and looked at it 1 year, and they all deduced the fact that it's a real phenomenon. And these were scientists.
Yes.
Scientists from around the world, by the way.
Yes.
Okay, why can't we get a few more of those people? And I feel sad, because we run across this, and you know what I'm talking about. But like, he ran across this, where suddenly you had these luminous kind of phenomena, and people were also seeing, by the way, cigar-shaped objects and disc-shaped objects and strange things that look metallic and everything, and they report those. And part of the reaction from those scientists were, oh, well, that's that UFO thing, dismiss it. So when he started to focus on the luminous phenomena, Earth lights or whatever you want to call them, they seemingly have backed off because, but why do we dismiss the fact that people were seeing cigar-shaped and metallic-looking craft that were also maneuvering around with these lights? There might be a relationship there. How do we know?
Right.
We don't know. And so, don't dismiss anything. Look at it, analyze it if you can, and see if it makes any kind of a logical fit into your hypothesis. But so that's I encourage people to consider that and be open-minded all the time. Go ahead.
And I think that's really important. And again, I had these candid conversations with Erling, and he is a groundbreaker. Really, we have a huge debt of gratitude that we should pay to him and everyone that has worked at Project Hesselen, because he is single-handedly, or with a team full of people, 3 people, really pushed this subject into a respectable place, and slowly, and he has been very delicate about the way he's approached this. The word UFO would never be brought up, ever, because science will dismiss it. And so he understood how to really get this in there and classify it, and then get it accepted, and then get more people involved and get funding. And it's been a really remarkable process to see the way he has done this. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. I think for those of us who aren't scientists, we have a little bit more leeway. And so, for me, looking at all of the data, not just looking at the anomalous light phenomena. I mean, looking at the paranormal aspects of this and the cattle mutilations and all of these other things. I think that's important. And I want to ask you, because this is an important question, and I know that we've got to go to break, dang it, but what role does the paranormal play in all of this? And should we be, placing the UFO thing into one basket and paranormal stuff into another basket?
Do we have time for me to answer that?
Well, you could give us a brief synopsis.
Well, I've had to deal with the paranormal in this whole thing. You can imagine after all the years that I've been in it. I mean, initially I got started looking at Bigfoot cases, and I got called in for ghosts and everything else. So to me, it's like one of those things where it's like there could be a relationship between all these wonderful things, but again, it's like, how well have you done your job in your Bigfoot investigations to rule out and to do your structure and your analysis to be able to come up and to find out specific conclusions, and then let me do a good job in my field, and you do a good job with the ghost things. Now all of us get together to start to compare the legitimate notes, and that's the problem. If we don't have that legitimate connection, and we don't really know what the good, strong evidence from each of those disciplines are, how do you bring it together and have the correct decision from it? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's, to me, it's like, we haven't got the discipline in the UFO field. We haven't got the discipline in the abduction field. And there's a whole lot of noise in the signal. So how do I get to the signal to make is there a correlation between the two? Mm-hmm. Or is this just random, happenstance? And, does just one sighting of a Bigfoot next to in the vicinity of a UFO sighting, does that one case make that there's a relationship? You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We haven't made that relationship statistically that there's a strong correlation. And we need to do a better job of that, if you would. We need to do a better job of getting our disciplines, our independent disciplines, organized and structuring those, and then coming to some sort of an understanding of that individual phenomena. And now let's take those minds and bring them together to see if there's a correlation or a fit amongst all of them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we've got to take it's our last break. I'm Erica Lukes here with Rich Hoffman. The best is yet to come, so stick around and we will catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
There's a show that's not afraid to ask questions no one else will ask. Not afraid to say
what no one else will say.
Friday nights at 7 p.m. Listen to Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, where no topic is off limits. Conspiracy theories, paranormal activities, hoaxes, the unexplained. It's what we talk about. Question everything. Trust no one. Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie. Friday at 7 p.m. on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
5D Events invite you to Las Vegas, October 20th through the 22nd for the International Symposium of Quantum Consciousness and Healing at the Alexis Park All-Suite Resort located at 375 East Harmon Avenue. For tickets and info, go to 5devents.com. That's the numeral 5devents.com. Keynote speakers, lectures, workshops, panels, exhibits, a documentary film, and a dinner banquet on Saturday are all part of this amazing 3-day epic event, Friday, October 20th through Sunday, October 22nd from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily at the Alexis Park All-Suite Resort in Las Vegas. This is a global gathering raising consciousness, healing, peace, and transformation. Keynote speakers include Andrew Basiago, Jordan Maxwell, John Lear, David Adair, Professor Marin Kesh, and Dr. Sam Osmanagic. That's the International Symposium of Quantum Consciousness and Healing, October 20th through 22nd at the Alexis Park All-Suite Resort in Las Vegas. For tickets and info, go to 5devents.com. That's the numeral 5devents.com.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
That's
Good.
Turn your radio up.
I love it. All the music I want to hear.
This is my station.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. For Hyperspace. The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I want to thank all of you for taking your time on a Friday night to tune in. I have listeners from all over the world, and you all mean a great deal to me. I say this all the time, but I am truly, truly doing this for all of you because I believe that each and every one of us deserves to have good information and that all of us can work together to find answers and to push things forward. Most of us are here because we've had really profound experiences. We're looking for answers, and we also have the intelligence to understand that there's something more to life than meets the eye or what we've been told. And it is up to each of us to have our own experience and to push the boundaries. So thank you for being here. My guest tonight is Rich Hoffman. He is with the Scientific Coalition for Ufology, or the SCU, and they are like-minded, serious and dedicated scientists and professionals who want to solve the phenomena using scientific methodologies and leverage current technologies. He's also working with UFO data and a project within QFOS. So very, very cool. He's doing some progressive things. And Rich Hoffman, welcome back. It's wonderful to hear you talk about incorporating all these things, or at least acknowledging that there's so much more than just the UFO phenomena involved in this, and that we really have to look at consciousness, and we have to look at all of these other things, the paranormal, maybe Bigfoot. There's so much to this, but we can't just, pick and choose data to focus on. We need to look at all of it.
Completely agree. Yeah, I was telling you about the fact that I've met Deepak Chopra several times and heard him speak. I've heard just a whole variety of other incredible presenters that have talked about the whole concept of what our consciousness is about. And my background, I originally got into was psychology, so I was also in the field, and so to me, it's like I look at this phenomena with I stand back and look at it and say, well, what does it truly convey? What's it about? Is it a manifestation of my consciousness or our consciousness? Why does it exist? Is it a physical phenomena? Is it a non-physical? Can it be aspects of both? When I talk with people, and I also had opportunity to talk with people who have been in the remote viewing program. I've had conversations with people who have had near-death experience. I've had people who have had ghost encounters. I've had a lot of these different kinds of things. And, the amazing thing about it is that when you talk to these people who have had these kind of like, call them other consciousness kind of like things, to them it's extremely real. And it might have been that they were really there, or that they can reach out and touch whatever that they've experienced, and they can speak about it with like, my God, this is exactly what happened. So, I mean, to them it's real. It is very real. When a person sees a UFO event, and that they truly have seen something that is just beyond any rational explanation, it's performed this way or that, it's very real. It's a part of their reality now. And I'm not going to reject their reality or their experience, and who am I to judge it, I'm there to find out what makes that reality what it is, and why do humans have this, and how do we build up our understanding. And why do we defend it so strongly when people want to change our reality or tell us that this isn't this way or that's not that way? And I'm sorry, but every human has their own experience. We're on it. It's like we're in a school ground, And my soul is having in a school, and it's learning. And so that's we're a big school ground, and that's what we're here for. Okay? And so what is that about? And why does my reality, how is it that so many people can see UFOs, and I spend my entire life, and here I have yet to see one, but I've seen other kinds of things that lead me to believe that there's something legitimately there, especially when I've looked at a 70-foot in diameter area that's been baked 2 feet in the ground. And
so talk about that. Talk about what you have experienced personally.
To me, it's like, my aha moment, if you would. I haven't had the sightings, and I walk around with my head up, and I run into things because I'm too busy looking up. So and I take walks late at night, and I look for things, and I don't see anybody being abducted out of their house and going up in a saucer either. So so maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know, but maybe. But ultimately, it's like my experience has been around listening to what other people share, and these are they're sharing their reality, they're sharing their experience, they're sharing their story. And I've been out there where I've seen the physical effects, like I said, in Carrollton, Ohio. I was called in on basically to help and assist on a landing site that happened. And this happened in the middle of a wheat field where it's 70 foot in diameter. There is absolutely no wheat. It's gone from the night before, because it was there the night before. The farmer gets up. There were UFO sightings all over the night before. And the farmer gets up the next day, looks out his window and says, "Oh my God, my wheat's gone," And he looks down there, and then you go down, and you're actually standing in that, and you're looking at it, and there's a central depression, a depressed area, like something maybe round had set there. And then as you go out from the perimeter of that in any direction, well, by the way, you dig 2 feet in the ground, there's no roots from that wheat. When you go out to the edges, you don't see any roots, or you start to see a little bit of root, and then you might see a little piece of the stem sticking above the ground. And then you see a rotational pattern on the top of that, and then you have puffed wheat around the entire perimeter. Now, when you're standing in that and you're saying, what could conceivably create this? There's no tracks of anything going in from the farm. The wheat around it's still standing up, and you're saying it's got to come down from the sky. What is it? I don't know. That was like an aha moment for me. I didn't have to see a UFO after that. They're real. I can't explain what that is. And then I've had those moments where, like, I gave the lecture to the Air Force, at Project Blue Book, right down in, or not, right in that same area. And these were the people from FTD. And I'm talking with the people from FTD and giving them a talk about the general UFO, some of the things that were going on with UFOs. And, I'd ask a question like, to these people in the room, and I'd say like, how many of you have had your own encounters? And, you might have a nervous hand and somebody says something, but my God, when I get to the break and afterward, people were pummeling with their stories. So one dude walks up to me and says, my job was to go chase them. I had a gun camera mounted on the front of my aircraft, and as long as I could chase them, I was supposed to film them. When I got down, they took the camera and the film, and then I was told to go over and sign that I wouldn't talk about it. And how do you deal with that? And I'm talking with military because I work in the military. I've got other people telling me incredible stories. My job was to do this. My job was to do that. Some of these things are classified. Some of these things are not classified. So I have to deal with that. But bottom line is that I'm aware of the fact that there's more to it, and that there are legitimate people even in the military who will tell you that I've seen these things. I know all about them, and they're on active duty. And I'm going like, okay, I understand, got it. But so. My aha moments, my belief in the phenomena comes from not from personal experience, but the experience of others and the data. Okay?
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. I tend to be, I wouldn't say that I'm there's extremes. It's almost like, you have an extreme conservative and extreme, liberal. Well, okay, I tend to be more moderate, okay? So I'm not an extreme skeptic, and I'm not an extreme believer either. I've heard too many stories that are too, I would be gullible, and I don't want to be gullible either. So I'm going to be rational. So I try to, balance a way that some people are, maybe telling me stories. Some people have, mental issues. Maybe some people that, whatever, that's okay. But at some level, but when you hear people that are extremely credible, they seem to have a good solid story. They seem to be good thinking. It sounds like they may be fairly rational and functional mentally. And they're telling you their legitimate stories, and you're going like, well, okay, why should I not believe you?
Exactly. And it is so cool to hear you talk about you being in this area and having that aha moment when you're like, oh my gosh, okay, this is not normal. And Erling Strand and people in Yakima and different places, Skinwalker Ranch, they've talked about areas pretty similar to what you were describing, where there have been obviously like almost the cookie cutter where things have been, the soil has been taken out in a pattern and then displaced, the roots intact.
Yeah,
and so what's happening in these specific places, and why aren't we looking at that as well as the underground noises, as well as some of the other things that happen in areas where there are recurrent sightings?
Exactly. That like, I can't remember what the weight of that sod that was picked up with perfect precision cuts and everything else and moved. That happened several times over in Hesselen. So, there's those kind of things that happen that some people will dismiss. You talk to witnesses and stuff like that over in the Cloverdale area. They're so used to this phenomena that it goes around their houses and around their farms that they just call it, oh, there goes those spook lights, but they don't report them. But yet, at the same time, I'm sure that they're probably having other kinds of experiences they don't talk about either. And a lot of people won't talk about this stuff. They don't want to be considered to be crazy fools. And in my area, the religious beliefs come into play. It's like, oh, wow, the Bible Belt. I'm not going to talk about that. So that's Satan or something like that. But anyway, ultimately, I run across those kind of resistances to being able to talk about it. So there are way more people not talking about it than actually talking about it.
Absolutely. And I want to say, you mentioned Wyatt Cox, and I actually have Spook Lights, the amazing Cloverdale, Alabama Spook Light Mystery, because it was, these areas and are so fascinating, and we're calling the same thing. The Spook Lights, the Ghost Lights, whatever you want to call it, it's the same, in my opinion. This is all the same thing that we're looking at. We just have different ways of classifying it or terminology. And Barry Greenwood, who's been on the show, and I talk to, he's talked to me about the different terminologies over the decades and how that's changed. And that in and of itself is just fascinating.
Yep. I've been talking to people that are also studying the brown mountain lights. You know, I've been talking with, what's his name? Joshua.
Joshua Warren.
Yeah, Joshua Warren. I'm sorry, I lost it for a minute there, but Joshua Warren and I have been conversing. There's another gentleman from Savannah, Georgia, that's actually going to come up and join me. I was encouraging people that around the United States that anybody wants to join and go out there with me, they're more than welcome. You know, so we're working that. You know, and so we're looking around the colder temperatures. It seems to be that there's when it's colder, there are more of these. In fact, in some cases, you can see as many as 7 in one evening. So I'm excited, but I want to also at the same time approach it from the standpoint that we're studying it to find out where does it come from, how does it manifest, what does it consist of, and the spectral is going to help us to get the composition of it. The close-ups from the UAV, I'm excited about because I think we'll actually get a better. We want to be able to go above it and go to the side of it and see what it looks like. And so we're going to try to tackle it with these more advanced tools to see what we can find. And I'm excited, very excited. And I'm sharing the data. I mean, I don't care who gets it. I mean, to me, it's about sharing it with people who will be able to help us to get an understanding of what it is. And I'm very
bless you, because that's what we need to do. I mean, I look at some of the work. I mean, there have been people in America who have really done groundbreaking things, but yet they're not sharing their data, and we don't have the ability to take their 50 years of research and build on it. And when I was really lucky to have a couple great conversations with Dr. Richard Haynes from NARCAP. And, the biggest thing that he left me with is he said, when I was young and I was researching this, my teachers told me that you need to build upon people's data and that you stand on the shoulders of those who came before you. And that was just so, that gives me the chills to think about him telling me that, because that's what we need to do. And we need to quit reinventing the wheel. We've got this information, so let's put it together. Let's get out in the field. Let's be progressive, share information, and figure out what this is, because it is right there.
Right. Completely agree.
It's so cool. And I want to just, talk about, with the spook lights and different things, and there are commonalities. And I noticed from what I've studied that typically there is one light, but they oftentimes will travel with other lights. And sometimes you've got the larger light and things will appear to drop out of the bigger light. Mm-hmm. And I have personally seen that. In fact, I had an encounter, a sighting, whatever you want to call it, a year ago, and it was raining outside. And I went out onto my back porch, and less than a mile away from me, because there was a mountain in between what I was seeing and these objects, there was an orange whitish sphere. And I watched it and I thought, okay, it's not a plane. There are no navigation lights. What is this? It's not a Chinese lantern. You know how it is. You put it through the paces, and then this object is there, and then all of a sudden there's another object underneath it and another object. I run inside, try to grab everything, a camera, everything fails like it usually does, which is such a bummer, but go back out there, and then these objects are forming a horizontal line. And it was one of those things. I woke up the next day and thought, oh my God, did I really seriously see that? It really kind of shook me up, to be honest. But this seems to be maybe a pattern that needs to be looked at.
Yep, without a doubt. And we've got to do that kind of level of grunt work again to find out pattern. Humans have a tendency to want to find patterns in things, and you see it all the time. Pareidolia, for example, is that whole thing about I see squirrels on Mars. It's a rock, or something. So and as babies, I studied child psychology when I was earlier, and there was Jacques Piaget had done a lot of great work where he had done studies of infants, and even at that young new young infant from birth, when he was studying them, he found out that they tended as kids to be able to go to and seek patterns. So we're, as humans, look for patterns. So whenever we see something, we always jump to trying to say, how does this fit? How does this not fit? What is this a part of something? Is this, and we try to, in our brains, we try to connect those dots, and we form this reality that we understand about connecting all these dots and saying, oh, that's part of it. The other part of that is that if we, and I'll just share this is a concern that I've got, and that is with social media, there's a tremendous amount of bad information that's being shared and people take in. And what happens is that bad information that's being shared is taken in, and that becomes and the person can't distinguish it. So now that becomes a part of their reality. So now all things happen this way because I saw it on the internet. I read it somewhere, and I think and so. That now becomes their reality, and then they go out and they say, "Okay, well, let me defend that." And they fight and they resist, and it almost becomes like a religion, as a religious.
Yes.
And then guess what? Then they sign up with the other religions out there where members have the same views as their religion, and so that they can all go out and so now you have this group of kind of like a cult, if you would, that's forming about this particular notion. And it's real to them, and this is what it is about because I read it somewhere and I saw this on the internet and I watched this on YouTube and everything else, right? So we have that kind of fractioning that's going on in ufology that we need to be concerned about, and the context of how much bad information we're getting. And they said, even if you look at studies of kids, you're talking your 14-year-old, for example, how much bad information do you think that your child has taken in from either TV, radio, or the internet? And it's a tremendous amount. And how well do they discern or make critical thinking skills work for them so that they can deduce what's real, what's not real, what's good, what's bad, and how do I go and now analyze to find out where I can get more accurate data. So I mentioned to you that I'm working, I'm actually doing some teaching down at the Honors College at University of Alabama. Roll Tide, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm into the college football. But anyway, I've gone down there a couple times. And the funny thing about it, this last time I went down there, the dean of the college, the Honors College, looked at me and said, "Did you know that you're a really popular guy on this place?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Everybody and the new students came in and heard, is the UFO guy going to come and talk to us?"
Oh, that's awesome. With the great bow tie.
Yeah, the great bow ties, and they were like, "Oh, well, you've become really popular." In fact, the funny part about it was I'm trying to enlist them and the other colleges around the area to get involved in the Cloverdale thing. But bottom line is that they now call me the professor, So,
oh, that's awesome.
So here you go. The professor's coming. So I guess, it's funny, but, what are you going to do?
That's so after all of your time studying this, have your opinions changed on what we're dealing with?
Well, to me, I've had many of those moments that you might have heard the phrase that was mentioned many decades ago. I mean, I've gone from a skeptic to a scoffer to a believer or something like that. At different phases of my life, I've gone through, and I guess part of it has to do with I keep going up and down with my own belief set, my own. But here's where I'm at, is after I've seen and learned more about humans, okay, and just from those experiences and stuff like that, over the decades that I've been doing this and just focusing on that UFO kind of like thing, is that, I've learned so much more about the human experience, the consciousness experience, the way we take that information in. And I've also, because I'm working on the IT world, I see the benefits of the technology that's out there, but I also see, on the other hand, the destructiveness of it. And so it's kind of an ethical dilemma for me to be watching all these people that can use something as wonderful as social media in a destructive way, and to be getting that that same level of trust that you might have had from reading a scientific journal magazine, and it's now I can read a blog that somebody put together, and I consider them to be equal in terms of accuracy, in terms of their truth. So, and sad for me is that I see a lot of children and kids who are so engaged in their cell phones and becoming more engrossed in and taking selfies and spending their time on their cell phones that they don't really get an experience of learning what really kind of like what real life is like. At the same time, many of them are so caught up in that technology that they're not getting grounded with good information, and their whole perception might be radically skewed towards maybe this negative stuff that they're not discerning. So
right.
I was in kind of like many moons ago. I was the training and development director for a lot of corporations, and so I've got that even in my background. So I was the head of the American Society for Training and Development in the Northeast quarter of the United States. I was the regional director, and one of the concerns we saw is that students or people who are younger than us are lacking in those critical thinking skills, and it's
absolutely. We've got to. And I hear that music, and I know the critical thinking skills, and I know exactly what you're saying. I'm going to have you back, and I want to thank you so much for being here, Rich. You are amazing, and please keep us updated on Cloverdale. We'll have you on again. I'm Erica Lukes. Thanks for tuning in. I will be back next Friday with a live show. Stick around for Tina Marie on Restricted Airspace. Have a good night.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.